All right, here we go. This is worse than 13 Bannerman Road.
You're listening to a mostly harmless cutaway.
Mostly harmless. Mostly harmless? Oh, come. I think that's pretty good coverage for a disintegrated pile of rubble.
Hi, this is Eric.
This is Sean.
This is Carl.
And this is Caleb.
Welcome back to MHC, episode 178.5, maybe? I've been dying to hear the opinions of Carl and Caleb on starting with Space Babies.
Take it away, Caleb.
Oh, you don't want to hear from me.
Go ahead.
So you loved it.
And I most definitely did not love it. Space Babies. I was never a fan of those movies with the talking animals or the talking babies where they CGI a mouth on there. I always found that jarring, and the fact that they brought that to Doctor Who is in no way a positive for me. The monster made up of the tissues, didn't need that. That was a bit too nasty for me.
Tissues or boogers?
You can't say it.
I'll also say tissues, yeah.
Yeah, he can't say it.
Oh, okay.
The nappy situation going on there as well. Didn't need all that stuff, and just overall, I just thought the episode was a really bizarre kickoff for the first season, although I guess technically it's not the kickoff. I guess that was the Church of Ruby Road, another episode that I didn't really care for. And the fact that they ended it off with that ridiculous fart joke where the ship was shaped like a butt, and then it expels all the methane. I was like, wow, this really RTD, like, what the fuck, man?
Wait a minute. Okay, I have a confession to make.
Sure.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I turned it off about 5/8 of the way through, so I didn't get the last 10 minutes.
Oh, you're so ridiculous.
I know. That's a bozo no-no, because I did a podcast about it.
If it was 2.5 hours long, I get it.
Okay, no, I couldn't. And what you just said, that is so stupid. Is this Spaceballs?
Stupid and gross. He's like, oh, we can't move this. It's not a ship. It's just stationary. Oh, wait. All those nappies down there, they've built up all this methane. Let's open up the back and release it. And the back is shaped like an ass.
Wait a minute. Are you fucking serious? They had all the methane
I'm serious.
from the Pampers?
This is why you gotta watch the show.
Okay.
And I stood up and said, fuck you, RTD. That's what I said after seeing that.
God.
I'm sorry to say.
Well, another Doctor Who podcast thought that was a nice touch.
No! Who thought
God.
that?
I'm not going to name
Fucking
names.
thought that.
You're too aggressive right now.
Yeah, maybe let's just move on from this. But
okay,
it was a tasteless opening and really set off a bad note for me. But how about you, Carl? Maybe you saw something that I didn't.
No, that's exactly what I thought. I really don't have much more to say. I felt the same way. I don't know what they were trying to do here. I didn't feel any connection with the babies. I agree with the odd look who's talkingness. The snot monster was ridiculous, and fart propulsion. They just kept hitting me throughout the whole episode because I really wanted something in this one, to start out the season. And it was disappointing and very confusing. I just didn't understand why they would go this direction. I couldn't find a little bit of light in it, and that is sad. that is sad.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess I'm the only person on this podcast who shared their opinion as of yet. Who I just thought was okay.
Oh, that's fair.
Well, what did you think was okay about it? Because
I just thought it was. There was things. I don't want to redo the whole thing for time reasons, but there was things for me to think about. There was allegory woven into the story by design that I would spend a lot of the running time just kind of pondering on it and what are they trying to say. And I thought I was going to go one direction with the allegory at the start, but as the episode progressed, the allegory took a sort of a turn. So I found that something to occupy my mind. And then another saving grace, I'm not saying makes the episode better, but it does operate like a series opener, not just for a new season or series of Doctor Who, but also like it acts as another jumping on point. I feel like this is the third jumping off point since RTD got back in the chair, but that's fine. That's fine. It's another jumping on point in that they're continuing to explain some things for first time viewers, young people. I think this is the first one where we get to see Ruby's reaction to the TARDIS being bigger on the inside. He explains about the universal translator.
You didn't think that was rushed? Because
it was rushed because we've seen it like 10 times in New Who.
Well, but okay, but see, that's the thing. Now, if you're going to take on the mantle of Doctor Who, and you know that you've got an opportunity to introduce your audience, a new audience, to the technology of the TARDIS and the mission of the Doctor, you don't think you would have given that just a little bit more respect? I mean, I really understand. And my initial reaction is, we've seen this so many times. Let's get it over with. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought they were going for.
But come on now. I mean, this is an audience that hasn't seen. If you're really trying to bring this into a new audience, I think one of the basic disciplines as a creator of the series is to continue to make that new and to make that experience unique for each Doctor.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I would love that. But,
I think you're absolutely right, Carl. But what I was disappointed in was that they chose to do it with this episode.
Well, I was even that part of it. I was disappointed. I'm trying to even cut out the baby stuff. If they just gave me that, I could find something about this episode that I was like, yeah, okay. I can look past this part of it. But the beginning of it just felt rushed and it lacked wonder for me.
I agree.
Just really quick. Was this the one that we see she steps on the butterfly and turns into the reptile lady?
Yes.
Yeah, that as well. I was just left completely scratching my head. Like really.
Well, the first time I was super confused. When I rewatched it again recently a little bit, I see now the reason because during the episode that went out where we discussed it, I was like, I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be a sign of things to come later in the season of affecting the past and changing the future, like Mavity.
Yeah, I'm still holding out
because they mentioned Mavity again already in. I think
because Mavity has been hanging with us.
Yeah,
so clearly implies, what would, in my mind, imply some sort of alternate timeline that things are going on.
Yeah, something's going on with Mavity, and maybe it is still connected because when I rewatched it again the other day, there is a throwaway line where the Doctor says that the reason it happened, the reason her stepping on the butterfly had that effect because some circuit wasn't working in the TARDIS at the time the way it was supposed to. So, I wonder if that is connected to the whole Mavity thing. So maybe those types of things aren't supposed to happen normally. I don't know. And I'm not trying to even read into it because I don't know if RTD is trying to be sneaky like that or not.
Well, I would just hope so, honestly, because otherwise Mavity and Butterfly is just a side.
Yeah, it sticks out. If you've been watching Doctor Who, whether it's just the new series or the whole series, it sticks out as like, why is this happening now?
Yeah.
And maybe it does have something to do with the mystery of Ruby's birth or being left on the steps of the church.
Yeah.
Besides just the silliness of that whole, her turning into the reptile lady, what was with him just blowing on the butterfly and it came back to life?
Oh, I think that was a la like a different version of what Tennant did with his hand in the Christmas Invasion. Because I think there was a line of he still has his like by generation energy,
regeneration life force. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to go with, but
because I immediately thought of the hand in Christmas Invasion, so it made sense to me the first time in that way.
Yeah, but bringing some back from the dead, like the actual dead, not just someone who's injured.
It's a butterfly. I don't know.
I immediately thought of that meme with the anime guy with the butterfly holding out his hand.
I would.
But I guess to move on to the Devil's Chord, of course no more gross nappy things, no fart jokes. So immediately this one gets an up. And I guess it's nice to see that New Who continues the trend that they always do, where we get the first episode Contemporary Earth, then the future, then the past. I guess they're keeping that going.
Weirdly.
I think that Jinx Monsoon was pretty fun in the first scene and some of the scenes following that. But sometimes certain drag performers can do this thing where they are always playing it at the exact same level. Even if they're switching emotions, they switch to the new emotion at the exact same level. And I can find that a little bit repetitive and a little bit, especially if it's just all this yelling. I was just kind of like, wow, I just could use a lot less yelling and a bit more menacing rather than something that just feels so huge.
I heard almost this exact same comment as well on a different Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised because, yeah, I would think that this would be an issue for a lot of people.
The other person said too, because on the other podcast, one person said, I'm unfamiliar with this person, so I don't know if this is part of their thing. And another person said, in a way, it is part of their thing if you've seen them in other material. So I don't know.
If you want to see something really fun, go on YouTube, type in her name, Jinx Monsoon Snatch Game, and you can see her doing Liza Minnelli and what's the girl from Poker Face? I can see her. I can hear her.
You always forget her name.
Something Leone, maybe? Or
Tasha Leone.
Tasha Leone. There you go.
And she's really good. But I think that is sort of part of her thing. Like everything's larger than life. And I'm acting.
Yeah. Divine-esque.
Yeah.
I feel like Divine had a little bit more levels there. It's not just constant yelling.
Oh my god! I mean, you're not wrong, but it's still a weird thing to say.
It's really the constant yelling, and it's one of the reasons that I've pretty much detested all of the New Who Master episodes, because they've pretty much done the same thing, where it's just they're all way too big, and just it's like, give me some subtlety. I don't need just constant screaming.
I do agree with you on the Master episodes, the New Who Master episodes, although that was one of the few good things during the Chibnall era. I actually thought that Master was at times interesting.
Early on, yeah.
Yeah.
John Sims, I thought he was a bit shouty.
Yeah, Sim.
Oh, yes. Especially in the end of time when every line is screamed by him. It's just so grating. But I still think that the look was cool. Having a Beatles episode that's not about the Beatles seemed like an obvious mistake that they should have sorted out in the writing process.
Yeah. How I felt, sort of.
I am never a fan of fourth wall breaking material. I always find it off-putting. Even in things like The Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I have to just like reserve that part of myself and be like, it's a good movie, just enjoy it for what it is. But I hate that talking directly to the audience. And they broke it in some ways in this that, like, I mean, I guess with just the maestro, like, okay, she breaks the fourth wall. I guess that's part of the character. I don't care for it, but whatever. But when you have the Doctor doing it and doing lines like, oh, I thought that music was just diegetic, that just really, really put me off.
That's another thing RTD's been sneaking in these shooty episodes. There's been a lot of fourth wall breaking or subtle implied fourth wall breaking where it almost seems like a character is kind of like looking at the camera out of The Office, but intentionally, like not by mistake. So I don't know if that's supposed to be another mystery, because it keeps popping up.
Yeah, that Mrs. Flood did it, and there was a few Stephen Moffat episodes that did it too. And I don't understand this writing tactic. I think it's just a taste issue with me, but I find it so grating. I thought it looked great throughout. I really appreciated the moment when the Doctor silenced the sound, and I think overall there was some nice uses of music, surprisingly, even though I don't like Murray Gold much. But yeah, overall, it's definitely my favorite so far of this season, or at least up to this point before we get to these new episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But still definitely a not recommend, a thumbs down for me.
Wow.
So were you delighted to see Murray Gold appear as himself in the episode?
No, I was not. That fourth wall break at the end was extremely off-putting, and I felt that the song itself was very weak. And I was even wishing, I was like, give me some of the lame songs from What's that episode of Strange New Worlds? Subspace Rhapsody.
Rhapsody.
Give me the worst song from that, and I'll take it over this always a twist at the end song.
I pondered on the previous MHC. I wonder, because of RTD going on about his Star Trek love, I wonder if he was somewhat motivated to do this.
Yes, I think so. I think the Buffy episode and the Star Trek episode.
Oh, for sure, the Buffy as well.
I do think that maybe he was like, I should do that. I should write a musical Doctor Who episode. He'd be like, I don't know if there was any others besides Star Trek and Buffy, but everybody would be like, "Oh, I see what you're doing. You're doing the same thing they do. It's done."
Yeah, it's an old talking point from the early days of Doctor Who podcasting, but there is a lot of Buffy inspiration in the original RTD run of Doctor
hugely.
Who. And Torchwood, of course.
Anthony Head even showed up.
Yeah, you're right. I just watched School Reunion.
It's a good one.
Yesterday.
It's a fun one.
For the first time in forever. But yeah, there's a lot of borrowed concepts from Buffy. You can tell Buffy is sort of like a progenitor of RTD's new Doctor Who in 2005.
Yeah, big time.
But anyway, I want to know what Carl thinks about the Devil's Chord.
What's going on over there?
He's doing Sheriff Rick Walker.
I thought maybe his balls receded. Instead of dropping, they went back up.
I like musicals. I actually really like musicals. But there is a thing. If you're going to do a musical, you got to nail the music. The music has got to really not only be a part of what is happening in the story, but the musical notes have to be, scores have to be strong. Something about them has to be unique.
But question, can we only truly judge the last song since the premise was that music was bad until we get to the final song?
Well, all the more reason you got to have your footloose moment then. I mean, if the whole time music's been banned, then when you finally break loose, it's got to be, a rather significant.
I see what you're saying. I feel like RTD felt like that was his footloose moment in the episode, but
well, I know that's what he was trying for.
I felt like it.
That's what he was trying for, but musically it didn't deliver. It didn't deliver. It was not a particularly memorable song that did that.
Okay.
So it was big and so this was actually a beautiful episode visually. There were so many moments and the colors and the motion and some interesting things they were doing with with the camera work and whatnot and the visual effects. This was really noticeably a pretty episode. And that was this is not my favorite episode, but I cannot deny throughout it, there were just some really breathtaking visuals in it. And I was like, wow, that is, like I hadn't seen in Modern Who. I think Modern Doctor Who looks good in general. Considering where it's come from, it's really advanced visually, a lot of interesting things. But this particular episode, they did something artistic with the look, and that brightness, that vibrancy, went throughout the whole episode. So if I go back and I watch it with no sound, if I watch this episode with no sound, it is actually quite spectacular.
That's how I feel about the Star Wars movie I won't mention.
Okay, so visually, there you go. I'm 100% with Caleb. Maestro was a little big. It was just gestures and volume. And one of the things that I have liked about Doctor Who in the past is when they present the baddies, the villains, we get to see danger in unexpected ways. Your villains in Doctor Who come out in strange ways. It's something unexpected kinds of villains. It's not that the idea of Maestro as an unexpected villain. It was like the portrayal of Maestro felt like, kind of like some masters we've seen in the past, kind of like what we were just doing with Doogie, just a couple episodes back.
Yeah, Toymaker. Yeah. Well, I thought it was weird at first, but then they mentioned a connection in the episode, and I went, oh.
Right. I got that too, but still, even if you're a minion, Starscream is not Megatron. Come on, give me some, some variant.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, right. It's give me some difference there. There's a lot of, so visual strong. There are a lot of cameos in this one, right? The woman who couldn't, the woman who was not playing the piano and was leaning out listening to the piano. She wasn't she the person that designed and knitted Baker's scarf?
Oh yeah.
She was.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that.
It depends on who you listen to. Tom Baker says in one of the DVD commentaries that it was knitted by somebody named Mrs. Pope. But is it June Hudson?
Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to split hairs because you are correct. There were like two folks that made it, and so I don't know which one it was. But there are two women. She was one of them. So she was one of the people that made Baker's scarf. So there are these little inside moments that if you know it and you can respect the artistry and the quality that they put into it, and you see where they're going. But when you just watch it, this episode it's loud and it is kind of derivative in terms of villain and story and everything. Even the moment where I agree, missed opportunities. If you're going to have Beatles in a Doctor Who episode, which again on paper that's ripe for a lot of magic. That has got a lot of potential in there. And they did not take advantage of that. They did not utilize the power of what that could have been.
Yeah, they should have drew from, what's the episode with Colin Baker with H.G. Wells?
Time Lash.
Yeah, Time Lash. I'm also one of the few people who like that episode. They should have taken a page from Time Lash where H.G. Wells was featured heavily in the story and the act.
Yeah, you don't even have to go back that far. You can go back to Rosa Parks, Agatha Christie, Charles Dickens, Tesla.
Yeah, the Dickens one was nice too.
Oh, my favorite is the Mary Shelley one from the Joey era. Haunting of Villa Diodati. Great.
And Shakespeare in the Martha episode?
Yeah, Shakespeare
Code. Oh, don't mention
and
that
of
one.
course Van Gogh. Van Gogh. So if you're going to be using these historical figures, and I mean, really, the stage, everything was set up just right. Visually, it was right. The time was right. Having the Beatles in there was right. The look of them was right. If they had been able to stick the music, if they'd been able to get that right, like even if something about the music, something about the notes, the odd chord had referenced the Beatles. Now I know money-wise, you got to be very careful about that, but still, if it had been that initial dong, that you get from the Beatles song, something that had brought that a little closer, there would have been an emotional resonance to it. But it just opportunity after opportunity, they just kind of missed, and the song at the end just did not work for me. It didn't work for me.
That's all fair. The last thing I wanted to say, you did make me think of something because I didn't mention it on the last episode. But I mean, I totally agree with what you were saying, Carl, about the visual look of this and how it's kind of raising the bar for Doctor Who in direction, cinematography, etc. And this is the part I didn't say before, but I thought it before as I was watching it. It reminds me of two things put together in a good way, which is it reminds me of when Doctor Who got to Series 5 under Moffat and 11th Hour, etc. And that's when they made the jump. Well, technically they made the jump before that, but it's the first full series where they made the jump to HD. So you noticed everything was sharper and clearer and had a more modern look than the previous Doctor Who. And then when they jumped to Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker, right off the bat, they jumped another level. Like they started looking more 4K-ish than HD, and they changed the aspect ratio. And so it had a very modern filmic look, especially some of those first episodes under Chibnall
Yeah.
looked like they were on the level of straight to digital films that were of contemporary times. The only thing is, usually nothing visually interesting happened during the Chibnall era, even though they upped their game on cinematography. But now that we have RTD combined with 2024, I feel like now we're getting like the brightness of the earlier seasons of New Who combined with the modern technology of Chibnall, and something like this visually, The Devil's Chord, is what you get. So I do like that. But there you go.
Well, I was going to say, just as perhaps a silly footnote, after I watched those 2 episodes, I felt like I needed a deep palate cleanser. So I went back, I was listening to some Big Finish, and I was like, you know what, I wonder, what did I feel about that last season opener for Jodie's last season? So I didn't watch the first episode of Flux again. And man, did I come away so much more positive.
On Flux?
So the first time I've missed the Jodie Whittaker era. Yeah, on that first episode of Flux.
Oh, dear. I haven't had that experience yet, but I also haven't revisited any Whittaker stuff since RTD came back. But I'll get there eventually.
That's interesting.
Oh, and real quick, I forget the unit of measure we did for Space Babies, but out of
Oh, no.
5 dirty hankies.
Oh, come on.
Out of 5 dirty hankies, how many do you want to give Space Babies, each of you?
Carl, any thoughts on, I don't know what to give that.
A polite 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm in a similar boat. I don't want to be mean to it, but yeah, did not enjoy it at all.
No, be fucking mean.
You don't owe them anything. just be real.
0.5. No.
If RTD was here in the room, I wouldn't feel bad about saying anything because I'm going to say nice things later on about him. So, shit.
Hey, if you want to give it half a dirty hanky, I think that'll be the first time that's ever happened on MHC.
I'll give it a 1 to be polite, but
Okay.
I just did not. I'll not be going back to that much at all. Did not enjoy it.
And Devil's Chord, I think out of 5 tuning forks.
I'm going to give it 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it 2. It's not as bad as 2, but I hurt for the missed opportunity.
Can I give it a 2.25? Because 2 feels just like it's such a great looking thing. And
Well, you can do 2.25, but it won't be official. Officially, it'll be a 2 or a 2.5.
I guess mark me down as a 2 officially, but
Okay.
again, the first maybe 15 minutes, I was really enjoying it.
That's fair.
And then that first, or maybe the second fourth wall break is when I really started to switch. But anyway.
You know, Caleb, again, we were all on the same page there when you said you needed a palate cleanser after these first 2 episodes. When it was over, my reaction was similar. I was like, well, all right. Now I'm ready to actually get back to Doctor Who. I mean, that was my, I was like, okay, we've done that. And, you know, Who experiments sometimes. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But can we get back to actual Doctor Who now is where I felt at that point. And so that's where I left off.
I feel like a lot of people had that reaction, especially once we get to what will be the following week. But you'll have to wait for that. So closing out this Cut Bits Minnesota tag along, this is Eric.
This is Sean.
This is Carl.
And this is Caleb.
And until next time,
Even if you find yourself on an abandoned spaceship full of talking babies,
Don't panic. Don't panic.
and even if President Joe Biden is trying to come up with the closing for an episode, don't panic.
This episode, this had no malarkey.
There you go.
I'm not joking.